Hey guys, welcome back. So today's video, I think we're going to just concentrate on getting more stuff done in the garage and getting parts back on the Supra. I've been cleaning the garage already this morning, and because of the build just taking so long and me going down the rabbit hole and eventually, you know, just taking more parts off the car, I've got too many parts in the garage that I care to have in there. Mainly one, because there's a limited amount of space. Two, it's going to get very easy to lose all these things, and the last thing I want to do is lose parts in the garage for the Supra. Have to go out and buy them because they're expensive, and then find them later on. So while I still remember where a lot of these things go, I'm going to actually start putting the things I can back on. So we're also going to get refurbing brackets, the wiper motor mechanism. I'm going to pull that apart, spray that up, make sure it looks good, and go from there. See what else I've got to do. I've got to clear some more space, so we'll try to put some other things back on the Supra, because I really need to get started on the rear subframe itself and finish it off so I can actually get the subframe back in, and then I can start adding the control arms to it later, because I actually want to move the axle stands back to the subframe so I can actually concentrate on the sills of the car. So I think without me rambling anymore, I think we're going to just go ahead and get this done. So let's go. Well, so far today, I've pulled apart the entire wiper motor and its assembly, and I've managed to paint one side so far in a hammered effect black, and the battery tie down and a random bracket that holds the expansion tank in place. However, I've noticed it does run very easily. So these little bits I'm going to have to go over with sandpaper a bit later and just smooth the edges off. So I learned my lesson when it came to the battery tie down. I did a much lighter coat, and the same here with this bracket. Next I'm going to move on to the, what do I call these, radiator brackets? Yeah, the top radiator brackets. Just going to scuff these up and then hit them with a coat as well. So I've just gone ahead and done one of them so far, and as you can see, it is so much better than what it looked like previously. If you look at the other one, no rust, no sort of weirdness, just a nice hammered effect texture going on. So I've decided to go ahead and remove the igniter and the coil and their respective brackets, so I can actually spray them with the hammered effect paint as well, because I've been doing some other brackets and they have really been coming out well. I mean, let's just check on the others here in the sun, and you can see the metal flake hammered effect on them, and they look fantastic. So why not do the same with these, because you see them in the engine bay the whole time, so they may as well look good. Okay, they're all sprayed up now and just drying in the sun. They're going to look so good in place on the car now. Give them 24 hours to actually properly dry, and I'll start putting them all back in. It's going to look so much better than rusted metal brackets. Well, that's going to be it for today's video. I've just pretty much, like I said, got those brackets done, cleaned the garage, and tomorrow I'll start putting the brackets on, and depending how things go, maybe start cutting out some rust. Or I should start with the subframe, or all the linkages and arms, etc. Start getting all the rubber bushings out of them, put the polyurethanes in. Or I know what I'll do. Let me actually refurbish the straps for the fuel tank and get the fuel tank back in. That's it. I'll get the fuel tank back in tomorrow. It'll be temporary until the lines get replaced, but yeah, I think I'm actually going to get the fuel tank back in. Let's start putting some parts back in this car, even if it's for a while, until I figure out a new solution for the fuel lines. But yeah, I like that idea. Second half of this video. Let's go. Alright, and day 2 of the video. Now I've just got to get the brackets all back together, get the motor bolted all back to it, and it should all work, in theory. But when taking it apart, the nut that obviously holds the motor to the mechanism ended up making the motor and the mechanism move a few degrees. And now the motor is no longer in resting position, or it's off position, where the mechanism would be in the wipers down resting position. So I've got to plug the motor back into the chassis of the car, power that up, and let the motor run back into resting position. Then I can go ahead and disconnect it from the chassis, reconnect it to the actual mechanism of the wipers, and pray I've got the order right, that it doesn't smash into my freshly painted cowl. Yeah. So let's hope I got that right. So let's go get this done. So I'm going to quickly go ahead and, before applying power to the chassis, I'm going to quickly put the igniter and the coil back in. So I'm going to just reassemble them back onto their brackets and pop them in. So let's quickly get that done first. think we can all agree that that looks a whole lot better than the bracket being rusted. Now the only thing left is to change out the bolts for something a little nicer. Okay, so that's the igniter and coil in. The brackets, like I say, just look so much better with a good coat of paint on them. Just so much better than like the faded black paint that was just chipping and rusting, and man, does that look so much better. So I'm going to add power back to the chassis now, which is going to be interesting because it hasn't seen power for about 2 months now. So again, the fuel tank isn't connected. I'm not going to try crank the engine, but I'm going to add power to it, and then connect the wiper motor just so it can run and cycle through its position. And then we can assemble the mechanism and put it in and then see how it behaves. So fingers crossed nothing goes wrong and I've connected everything properly. Ooh, gets a little daunting when you start adding power back to things. Alright, let's go do this. Okay, so I've added power back to the chassis and I've left the motor here. It has now run through its cycle back to its resting position, as you can see when I move the wiper stalk. And just like that, it works. So now that it's in a resting position, I can go ahead and disconnect it and connect it back to the whole mechanism. So let's go do that. So this is it now with the motor and the arms in the resting or off position. As you can see, the arms almost sit parallel to this bar, almost being the operative word. So now this is essentially the setup if you need to copy it. And that will have your motors in their off position. So all that's left to do now is put this plastic back on, bolt it back in place using these little guys. As you can see, these ones are little oval shaped. They fit the little oval sized grommets, and the only round one fits back there, in case you wondering which bolt it was again. Those little guys. Alright, let's get this done quick. Alright, now it's as simple as powering it on and turning the wiper motor on. There we go. Man, those new brackets look good. I say new, they look new. It's amazing what a just good coat of paint does to them. Definitely need better bolts, but hey, they'll do for now. Alright, so now I'm going to start tearing apart the straps just to essentially get rid of any sort of surface rust on them, prime them up, and then get them ready to bolt back into the car. So let's go ahead and get these things refurbed. Okay, and that's them after a good 2 coats of primer. Still a little scabby in places, but I've managed to sand off all the loose rust. Unfortunately, I won't be able to get them back to showroom condition, but at least this will stop them from rusting any further. Oh well, let's put the rubber guards back on them, clean it up first, pop them back on, and then find all the hardware to put the tank back in. Alright, so as you've seen in the time lapse, I've just gone ahead and cleaned all the threads on the straps. I've done the same with on the chassis of the car, in regards to just the front, where the brackets and all kinds of other things are going to bolt back in the next coming days. And what's happening is I want to go ahead and just start putting things back together on the car. So what I'm doing is obviously cleaning the threads out and then using a paintbrush and just greasing the inside. It helps obviously with the screw threading into place. And number two, it helps just stop any sort of rust, because what's the point of, you know, getting rid of all the rust in the car if I'm just going to reintroduce it within every single bolt location. So, and also after painting, there's a layer of paint that's gone into the threads as well, so that's also gonna, you know, stop any sort of screw from threading properly. And the last thing I want to do is have something damage or snap off, because then I'm just, you know, damaging all the work I've spent all this time doing. So there you go. Well, now that's all done, let's get all the bits of hardware together for this tank and shove it in. There we go, and the tank is back in, looking a whole lot better with the refreshed straps. So obviously, as you've noticed, the fuel lines are still there, not hooked up. The tank is temporarily back in place. I've mainly got to just free up some space in the garage because I want to get that subframe finished off, because I've started on it, but I really need to get finished with it, and then I can actually get the subframe back in and then start working on all the control arms and start putting them back together. In the meantime, I don't have the fuel lines in, so I've got to just knock some things out the way until I get the new fuel lines in. Then I can obviously connect them back up to the tank, bolt it in permanently, and then from there finish this damn thing off, because it's just taking far too long. But it feels good at least ticking some things off the list. Now the straps are done and everything can get bolted back in place properly. So yeah, let's call it a day on that. I'm sufficiently beat. Managed to put, as you can see, more of the front of the car back together. Feels good seeing it more complete again. Soon I'll start getting the tail lights and things back in place and everything else. So yeah, I think we'll call it there in the video, and until next time.